Assalamu alaikum, and a very good, still Malaysia morning. In other time zones, maybe you are different, particularly in the African continent and in Arabia, maybe different timing. Anyway, welcome to this session as part of the Global Muslim Business Forum. First, let me recognize Tan Sri Michael, who is the coordinator and also the collaborator in the UK Global One, Dr. Husna and Brother Saif Ahmad, and of course the KSI team and Tan Sri Wahid Omar, who has very I would say, charismatically handle the first part of the session on the global economy and how the Islamic economy is taking its own contribution to that. Now, before I go on to the subject that is given to us, the global digital economy, the rise of digital technology and innovation, I just want to brief those who are following this particular Global Muslim Business Forum is that we have been for about 20 years or so focusing on what we call the broader economic aspects in several forums, including the World Islamic Economic Forum. And as an offshoot in the thinking process, we looked at that economic growth and development and progress of nations depends on, among other things, a very critical component called leadership. So we thought that maybe we should take that component and look at leadership, and therefore the World Muslim Leadership Forum was founded together with Tan Sri Michael and Dr. Husna. Now, as we progressed along on this track, we found that not only we are now looking at the leadership component, but leadership within the business community. Business becomes an important, and in many economies, you'll find that business and the private sector is the driver of the economic process. So we are now coming to that aspect of it, and I think the opening remarks made by Tan Sri Abdul Majid and also by the Minister, Dato Sri Mustafa Muhammad, is clear indications of where we are heading in terms of our role. Now, listening to Brother Yusuf Hassan Khalawi, some of the comments at the initial part and where he addressed in the first panel session, we found that there are some important lessons that we can take cognizance before we move on to the digital aspect that is the subject matter of this panel. Now, this is the month of Rabiul Awal. For Muslims, this is a very important month. Of course, Ramadan is a very important month, and then Dhul Hijjah for the Hajj is an important month. But apart from that, you'll find that the Rabiul Awal, because we celebrate the prophets coming to this world and providing the leadership. So after listening to the opening remarks and the first panel session, trade was emphasized there, trade. And you will find that the prophet was a trader. Therefore, it becomes a sunnah trader, and also the importance that you have mentioned about entrepreneurship. He was a trader and he was an entrepreneur, although he was doing the entrepreneurship on behalf of another, his beloved wife, but before becoming the wife, the capital that is funded by Khadija. So that is an important message that we can take into consideration. And the second one is I just want to move on to look at this area of digital aspects, the global digital economy. Now, two things come to my mind. In the Quran, you will find that there is in the chapter 85, verse number 21, the reminding of what is called lawful mahfuz, the prescribed tablet. And commentators have said that this is the tablet in which you find the entire knowledge is prescribed. And to my mind, very simply, this is the biggest and ever-expanding website that we can think of. So you'll find that the base in Quran itself, in the digital aspects. The second aspect is the Prophet, when he was receiving the messages, he was always looking up into the sky or to the heavens, as it may be called. Now, this is, in computing terminology, is called now the cloud computing and storage and things like that. So in the Islamic tradition and the legacy, you'll find that we have the basic aspects, which of course the Muslim community may have not developed on its own, but nevertheless, this planet is one, humanity is one. We talked about inclusive. So with that as the beginning comment, I would like to say that I will lead this panel session with 2, 4, 6 speakers, and each would be given about 10 to 15 minutes. We have total of 75 minutes. 6 times 10 is going to be 60, and maybe we reserve another 15 minutes for question and commentaries. So with that as the basis, I would like to first invite Mr. Essa Abdulla Al-Ghurair. Zaim has already introduced the people. Brother, I'm very, very happy to see you again. And your father was a good friend of mine. So we know from the family circles and the Al-Ghurair family. So can I ask Brother Essa to make his presentations?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salamat Piga. I hope I pronounced it right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be with you today to discuss about important points that I would like to share with you. I would like to focus on two things. One is the innovation. The other one is collaboration. We are in a changing world, a fast-changing world, and we need to adopt it very fast. The innovation does not come only from the West to us, but we should be an innovator as a nation, as a Muslim Ummah. We should be an innovating also. In the past, we have seen that a lot of innovation has raised from the Muslim scholars. Today, you see that the AI works on mathematical calculation and algebra and algorithm is all based on Islamic scholars that had invented all these things. Especially also like the zero. Without the zero, now it would have been, life would have been so difficult. So we have, since the 14th century, we have started to sleep slowly, slowly, slowly. I see that with innovation, we'll be able to change the world back again to what the glory of Islam was. And a small example of that is just if you look into each and every one of us has the phone. Before the Apple phone comes, what happens? Well, there were the Nokia. With innovation that has been created on the telephone, we see that the huge impact that had put on the world. So simple innovation make a lot of changes. Look at, I think other people will be discussing about this, but maybe I just highlight is in Africa, for instance, now transferring money becomes much more easier than before on the telephone. So this is innovation. I see it. And we have to go back again and do innovation. Maybe it's a small things, but hopefully it will be bigger later on. But we have to create as a government, I also, educational institution had to encourage people, students to do innovation. And government is to have the possibilities to put that kind of institutions, laboratories, where people can, as an individual, he cannot have a very sophisticated laboratory, but as a government, they can enable these young generation, enthusiastic generation, to be able to try and experiment. No harm in failing, but the failing will be after it is success. So innovation is one word that I would like to keep in our mind, is the way forward to the future of the Muslim Ummah. The other point I would like to emphasize is collaboration. You know, collaboration is, I have a success story. Yesterday I was with the gentleman from Albania, and he is in oil and gas business. And, you know, I told him about an innovation that has been created here, is a mobile petrol station. He said, how come a petrol station can be mobile? I said, this is one of the area necessity had created. They say, you know, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
So, because it was actually, there was only few companies allowed to do physical petrol station, and this gentleman had this idea, and the government gave him that license to have this mobile. He said it will be a great idea that I could implement it maybe in Albania. And you see, these collaboration will be, because already, I always say it is cut and paste, because already the hard work and the difficulties has been overcome. So now it is to transfer to other things. For instance, I mean, for us was not known the instant noodles in our part of the world. Now it is a lot of people are using instant noodles that had come from the East. So similarly, we have also things that we have in the West here as a Muslim that can we send also. For instance, the easiest one was shawarma and you know, baklava, the sweets and other things that it is there. So I would like to see how to encourage Muslim nation to collaborate with each other for the benefit of increasing the bilateral trade between each other. As the previous speakers were discussing, our bilateral trade is very, very humble between all Muslim Ummah. We need to see how we can extend that by better collaboration in food, in tech, and all these aspects we need to create. Just as recently now that the UAE has signed, for instance, the free trade agreement with Indonesia. This is a good step, is to take out the curtains between nations, Muslim nations, to be able to trade freely between each other. And that is the government role, but we as a business people, we have to see how we can take it forward. That is very important. I always say, like, for instance, in the Emirates here, we have the Gulf Food Exhibition. This is an exhibition where I think more than 150 countries comes to exchange ideas and goods, and we don't see a lot of, we see simple things just to sell. I like to see more of bigger businesses happening in this one, because now it is recognized that food is the most important things. You can stop, building, you can wear your clothes for a year or 2 years, but you cannot stop for 1 or 2 years, 2 days from eating. So this is a very, very crucial thing, is that how we can collaborate to for food security between our two Muslim Ummah. We have something, we have the dates, could be utilized in our brothers in Southeast Asia and the East. But similarly is on the other side, they have the palm oil, for instance. This is a good thing that we should increase this bilateral trade relationship between the two countries, and with it, the collaboration. I would like to just, Sheikh Mohammed has just recently, opened the Museum of the Future. It is to induce the people, is that in 10, 20 years, how life is going to be. One interesting Indian gentleman from India, from the government, he visited the Future Museum, and a very interesting comment he said, you are 50 years ahead. I say, why? He said, there are things that I never thought about it, that it is there. Why the government has built this Museum of the Future? It is to tease the brain of the people or the visitor who is coming there that there is better future. Maybe it is true or not true, but we need to excite the brain to think further and further. With that one, I would like to leave you with a word from Sheikh Mohammed. He said, the future does not wait for the hesitant people. The more we achieve, the more we realize how much more we can achieve. So the ceiling is, the floor is unlimited, is there. So we have to dream to realize it for a better future for our Ummah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Shukran Kabir. Yeah, Brother Essa Al-Ghurair did mention about innovation and collaboration as being two primary drivers, and there is nothing to stop to have the innovation. That brings us to recognition that technology was supposed to be in the hands of only a few. And we always thought that this may be in the hands of the West, whether it is Europe or the United States. But Brother Essa did mention about the beginning of the Islamic innovation and Al-Khwarizmi and algebra, which is the basis that is driving some of this data dynamics and in the digital world. Very good observation that he has given. And the young mind will have to be inspired. I think this is the essence of what you're saying, digital. And this digital aspect has been brought to us much faster than what we thought of before 2019. The COVID has made us all move towards the digital, and some very aggressively, and some still learning how to cope with it. And food security, I think in the earlier discussion, this halal industry and food security was talked about, and how your second point, collaboration, can come in, although we are focusing more on the digital aspects of it, but generally we look at that. Thank you very much for your remarks that you have given, very insightful. And next on the list, we have, I would say, a young lady, Rita Irina Wahab. I have met her at the Huawei Innovation Center in Kuala Lumpur. And Huawei, we know, is driving the digital 5G and perhaps even to the extent of 6G. And China is moving higher and higher, leaving behind some of the competitors. Although she is not with Huawei, but your background and expertise would be helpful. So over to you, Rita, for your presentation.
Very much, Dr. Sri. I hope this is clear. Is able to hear me?
Yes, not only here, we see you very bright.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for having me as one of the panelists in this Global Muslim Business Forum. It is truly an honor and privilege to share the same stage as other notable speakers in our objectives to highlight the importance of digitalization in transforming the Islamic economy and Muslim world. A very good morning also to our esteemed guests joining us online today. As you know, governments of countries with significant Muslim populations are seeking new avenues of economic growth and diversification. And Malaysia specifically has emerged as the leading nation that best supports the multi-trillion-dollar global Islamic economy. This is according to the State of the Global Islamic Economic Report 2022. And we continue to remain at the top spot in the overall rankings for the 9th consecutive year. And moving forward, R&D, technology, innovation, and productivity will be key to ensuring that Malaysia continues to develop its high-tech manufacturing and related service sector. Definitely, this is in line with the new national policy framework on IR 4.0, which is currently being formulated and, of course, executed by the government. And also, Dr. Sri, as you rightfully pointed out, we are living in a time of exciting technological innovations, and the push given by the pandemic and digital technologies are driving transformative change. And the economic paradigms are also shifting. So the new technologies are also reshaping the product and factor markets and profoundly altering business and work. The latest in AI and related innovations are also expanding the frontiers of digital revolution. So most of this transformation is accelerated in the wake of COVID-19. And I think, as Brother Essa pointed out, the innovation is coming very, very fast, and it's faster than we expected. So as these digital technologies are rapidly changing and evolving, the Muslim world, like the rest of the world, must participate in this evolution. Because without a doubt, China and the West are in this race to develop the latest innovation. Based on my previous role, of course, we work very closely with China. So China itself has been spending on IT very much. And the IT spending has grew 10% year on year, and I think they've reached over 2 trillion yuan just last year alone. And it is prioritizing high tech as the top of all economic policies. But I do believe in the Muslim world, especially like for Malaysia. It's sad to see that we are lagging far behind, yeah, even within our regional neighbors, such as Singapore, when it comes to technology and innovation. I have some data that I think is readily available as well. My digital provided this in one of the tables, and it shows how we are in terms of our competitiveness, digital competitiveness ranking, in terms of the competitiveness index, inclusive internet index. We're far off behind from our competitors. MNCs invariably favor Singapore over Malaysia when it comes to setting up their regional base or corporate headquarters, like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Uber, Vodafone, for example. Some of the companies that made Singapore their APAC operational hub. And given that competition to lure big names is always increasing, how can Malaysia, as representing the one of the Muslim worlds, how does it make itself more attractive? What else can we offer, and which areas in particular need improvement? Our competitiveness is now dependent on strengthening the manufacturing and service sectors, and also shifting to innovation-led industries. I would like to mention that perhaps a special focus is required to strengthen innovation and deliver new or enhanced products into the global market. And we need to enhance the economic growth, competitiveness. So businesses and individuals must capitalize on the strategic opportunities in order to stay relevant and contribute to the Muslim countries. And Dr. Sri, to get the most value, I think, out of Malaysia's digital transformation and make the endeavor worthwhile, we need to articulate a clear and defined end goal for why we want or need a digitally transform, and how this transformation will create value. It is all about value, yeah. And we also need to emphasize how to unleash market forces and incentivize enterprises and talents to drive innovation. I'm literally echoing what Essa has said about innovation and getting the government to facilitate. But the mechanisms for enterprises, such as preferential tax policies, fiscal support, access to credit and scientific data, sharing of profits, also to deepen and facilitate all this is also institutional reforms. And perhaps for longer term goals, yeah, what China has done is it now has a distinct advantage over a system that's driven solely by market forces. Its government points towards pushing the AI race, and by that it means winning future wars digitally. Based on my experience with Huawei, as you know, it's a Chinese multinational tech company, worked there for almost 6 years. When most MNCs chose Singapore to be their hub, but Huawei decided to make Kuala Lumpur as their APAC hub since 2001. And surely this Malaysia has a lot to offer, and that decision was a good one. And there were many opportunities presented to Huawei when they are here in Malaysia. And I also like to point out that one of the company's many focuses in the country was also in the state of Sarawak. Sarawak has heightened its efforts to achieve its goal to become digitalized by 2030. And of course, this is also guided by Sarawak's digital economic strategy blueprint. And several efforts have also been undertaken to make sure this comes to fruition. It's not just a blueprint with no clear implementation. But one of the real challenges that Sarawak faces, I suppose, is its terrain, because the moment you have a hilly area, it will disrupt connection signals. And I think connectivity is the fundamental foundation to the digital technologies that we wish to have. But I also wish to mention that a lot of investment must also be made in the state's infrastructure to help the state itself to grow. In fact, other states in Malaysia should certainly follow suit. I strongly believe that the advancement of like digital infrastructure, cloud computing, yeah, as you mentioned just now, Dr. Sri, and blockchain will make more cities in Malaysia more livable and more efficient to govern. And the participation of enterprises from countless industries will also reshape our industrial and commercial models and make companies more resilient. So just sharing with you some thoughts with my few minutes that's available for me. Thank you very much, Dr. Sri.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rita. I think your perspective on the digitalization and how Malaysia is taking advantage from MNCs, including Huawei, and how the competitiveness between the ASEAN countries, particularly Singapore, we have not lost out. We may be losing out in the long run if we don't pull up our socks. And what you're saying is that if our experience is of some relevance, the Islamic countries will have to take that note and then see. The problem with Islamic countries is that even in the traditional areas, like what Brother Essa mentioned about this collaboration, is lacking very much. And therefore, how do you go up into the technological and innovation side for collaboration? This is a very big challenge, very big challenge. If I may just want to make a small remark, we would like to see people like yourself coming in human form and presenting, and not in a robotic manner in future.
Inshallah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very
because,
much.
Because AI is one aspect. I think it is going to rule our world and rule our life. But human intelligence continues to be on the top part of it, and you cannot just ignore the human intelligence. AI cannot completely replace the human intelligence. And we in the Islamic tradition and the things like that, our inspiration, not only from revelations and other things, is still inspired and administered by the human intelligence, and AI and that kind of revolutionary digitalization will be subservient to the human progress. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Rita. We have now from Brunei, Darussalam, another very sparkling gentleman. He is the chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Shazali. Sulaiman, I have the fortune of working together with your father in Bank Negara. And so welcome back. I think you just flew back from UK. You didn't create the financial disaster there.
No, I brought it back here.
Okay, Shazali, please. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. So you seem to know my father, you seem to know Mr. Issa's father. Your Siratul Rahim is very good. So you're very good umrah here, in terms of spreading your network, across many generations, including my father. I think the way that I'll look at this is I'll come from the perspective of a small country and how important the digitalized economy is for a country like Brunei, which has a population of 460,000. And we keep talking about COVID, but from my perspective, from the Brunei perspective, I mean, COVID was a blessing in disguise in the sense that it was a catalyst to the digitalization of a lot of the businesses in Brunei. A lot of companies had to digitalize, otherwise they were, they would set themselves backwards. So we had no choice but to move into the new digitalized economy. And being small, and where we have limited supplies of foodstuff products and where food security is important, it was important that we were able to get connected with suppliers outside Brunei. And the digitalized economy, the globalized economy was very important for us to actually be able to connect with supply chain. And I think one of the most important things with COVID is we realized that the supply chain was critical in terms of the survival of business. But the problem with COVID as well, the logistics was also a challenge. And having a good logistical system, a good digitalized system, instead of linking yourself with the shipment company, the logistic companies, with the suppliers was also very important to ensure that you got your products into Brunei quickly, swiftly, and fresh. But one of the issues that we have here, obviously, is being an Islamic country, we are quite strict in terms to ensure that the product that comes in is halal. Yes, you may have a halal logo on the product, but for example, sometimes we have a different method of recognizing the method of slaughter. When McDonald's opened in Brunei many, many years ago as a franchise, the burgers that came from Malaysia, although it's halal, but our religious department did not recognize it as being halal by Brunei standards because we do not recognize stunning of animals before you slaughter. So it became an issue, but a lot of Bruneians that go across the border to Miri will have no problems going to McDonald's to eat the burgers anyway. So there was a differences in terms of the standard we have here in Brunei in terms of how things are, animals are slaughtered, and how we recognize what is halal, what is not halal, what is Sharia compliant, and what is non-Sharia compliant. So it became a bit trickier as well when we wanted to import foodstuff from other countries, because we needed to get also a certification from the meat producers that the method of slaughter was in accordance with the way it's done in Brunei, and in accordance with the religious department of Brunei's requirement. The other issue, obviously, is when you're in the food-based industry, when you bring stuff in, we also need to go back to the source. A good friend of mine who actually runs a fantastic coffee cafe here, he needed to get certification from his coffee bean suppliers that the coffee is actually Sharia compliant, it is halal, and the way that the beans have been processed as well is in accordance with Sharia compliant. So it became a bit more trickier for him because it became more expensive. Suppliers sometimes are a bit reluctant, it's coffee bean, it's not animals. So then again, we do not have a standardization in terms of what is halal and what is not halal. And we talk about doing business with Islamic countries. But if we look within the ASEAN region, apart from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei, which are predominantly Muslim populated, we do a lot of trade with Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines, which has got also a large Islam population. But not only that, they also have quite a well-developed and highly recognized manufacturing food-based industry, especially in Thailand. So from our perspective, we also do import a lot of our foodstuff from Thailand. We do have a government official that's actually posted to Thailand to look at the process to make sure that it is Sharia compliant. Just like a lot of meat that comes from Australia, we do own a farm in Australia, so we do have religious officers stationed in these countries to make sure that the slaughter is done in accordance with the Brunei method of slaughter. Now, when we look at digitalization, obviously, you need to build up the human capacity as well of the local entrepreneurs in Brunei. As a professor of the university in Brunei, I was in a meeting yesterday, and we have set up what is known as the entrepreneurial village in our University of Brunei, which works closely with the innovation center to make sure that the students that are coming out from the system do have an innovative mind, are able to adapt to the digitalized economy, and also to be able to think outside the box, not to think of Brunei as being the only place of business, but to see the global economy as an extended market for their services and product. So we try to do what we can here as well to build up the capacity. And because of COVID, because of digitalization, doing everything online, We have also developed what is known as fintech, especially on the, as Dr. Iqbal was talking about, crowdfunding. We have a number of companies now that has Islamic crowdfunding to help SMEs. Most of business in Brunei are not small, but micro, less than 5. So we are predominantly a micro. 60% of our SMEs are micros. So we have a different perspective. And obviously, with having a lot of micro industries, we do have a lot of challenges on the digitalized economy because not many people can afford to, get connected, can afford to pay the internet charges. Our internet charges are still quite high. So I think in order for us to embrace technology, we need to bring down the cost of technology. I mean, for example, I'm paying $150 a month just for unlimited access in my house, which is quite a lot of money for low-income people. So I think we really need to bring down that cost. So connectivity is important. We want to embrace technology. So what are the things that we're looking at as well? And also what the government does now is every day when I look at the newspaper, because digitalization means you have easy access to the market, but at the same time, we do have a lot of people out there that do not have good morality, integrity, and honesty when they do business. They say the product might be halal, the product might be Sharia compliant, but every day we have a list published by either our central bank on Sharia compliant products or the Ministry of Health on beauty products, cosmetic products that have ingredients that are extracts from pig, for example. So we also have to be careful, I think, as when we buy online, to make sure that there must be some sort of standardization. There has to be, so consumer protection. How do you do consumer protection when you're buying online in different countries, different jurisdictions? Now, when the product comes to Brunei, then it's going to be difficult for you to then suddenly send it back, there are a number of occasions where a lot of people have actually been caught short or been cheated, because when you deal online, they know that they're not going to come after us. So I think the countries where the original supply comes from, I think we need to work closely with the government to make sure that if we are really embracing Islamic products, the halalness of the product, then we really need to make sure that all the agencies and all parties are working together to make sure that the Ummah is not being shortchanged or cheated in terms of, ensuring that the product that has been sold is actually truly halal. I mean, in Mecca, you see, Burger King says, our beef is 100% halal. To me, you're either halal or you're not. It's either 0 or 100%. So I don't know why you must say it's 100%. And I think on the digitalized economy, I think we should stop using the word beef, bacon, and turkey ham in some of the products that we sell. Because if you look at the definition of ham and bacon, it's actually different parts of the pig and different ways that it's been processed. I don't know why we must use those kind of words, if we really want to move forward on the halal industry. So basically, for a small country like Brunei, just to summarize, it's important that we embrace the global economy because we cannot rely on our small market. Manufacturing base is pretty limited in Brunei, so we import a lot of foodstuff. When we import a lot of foodstuff, and because we are an Islamic country, we have to make sure that the foodstuff and the products and beauty products, domestic that comes in, are really truly halal and compliant. And the fintech and all the other Islamic products, especially when it comes to Islamic wealth management, there are a lot of products out there that it is truly Sharia compliant. So we still have a long way to go. Where you deal things online, where you don't actually have the face-to-face, the feel-good factor about meeting your customers, there will be a lot of people out there, that will try to also sell products that they say are Sharia compliant or halal, but may not necessarily be true. So there should be also some sort of consumer protection and working closely together between governments and different jurisdictions, I think, in terms of bilateral trade and all this multilateral online trade that goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Shazali. I think Brother Shazali has addressed the impact of COVID-19 and accelerated. I think everybody agrees that the digitalization process has been accelerated. And he also brought to the fore the supply chain disruptions. And those countries, whether they are Muslim countries or non-Muslim countries, everybody was affected by these supply chain disruptions. And the further away from the production center to the market, the more difficult it was, even including factors like vaccines and pharmaceuticals and the other things had a tremendous impact. So there is a lot of things that we can do in the ASEAN and among Muslim countries like MENA, within the region, to see that the supply chain is not far apart. It is close-knit. Therefore, production and utilization can be bridged, and supply chain disruptions can be overcome even if we are going to face another pandemic. And the virologists and healthcare people are saying, hey, look, COVID-19 is one example. You had the Spanish flu or whatever it is before, but this is not the end of the story. Prepared for another onslaught at some point in time. It will come. It is part of the creation. And how prepared you are. And the other point that you mentioned very strongly is the impact of social media in terms of determining what is available, is good or not good. Is there an element of fraud or cheating that is coming in? And this is where I think when we went to Huawei Innovation Center, they were talking about cyber security. And every country is now looking at this area. And how do you protect yourself? Because customers can become very vulnerable. And malware has come in to provide a ransom for this kind of a thing. So cyber, together with the digitalization and the acceleration process, there are dangers that have come into the picture. Yes. Good. Thank you very much, Zali. We have roughly about only another 20 minutes, unless we are giving injury time to extend it beyond 12:30. So we have got three more speakers. Dato Wei Chuan Meng is part of our team, actually. So he has got tremendous experience in this digital economy or digitalization process. He has been with it, so he will bring forward some practical experiences. Dato Wei?
Thank you very much, Dato Sri, moderator. May I also wish everyone, may peace be with you. Assalamualaikum. I come from the state of Kelantan, Kelantan, where there's this 95% of my fellow citizens in Kelantan are actually Muslim, while I'm non-Muslim. However, I grew up together, and in fact, today also there are many partners of mine who are also Muslim. So therefore, it is actually very much living side by side and immersing in this environment that I'm familiar with. Dato Sri, you mentioned about the wish to invite Rita to join in person. And the good news is this: in our digital era, the next version of the Global Muslim Business Forum, we could do it in the form of metaverse, in the virtual and this metaverse reality. So everyone can come in the best of avatar. So indeed, you will actually be seeing each other very closely, very directly, and therefore we can interact very directly. For those
as if you're in a physical meeting.
As though you are in a physical space. So for those who have not experienced this, I believe it is going to be the next level for us to experience a digital new future that Mr. Essa also talked about. So I want to kind of put a few points across to share what has been the experience that I gained so far. First, we heard from Mr. Essa that innovation and knowledge economy was very much alive in the previous millennium in the Middle East, where algebra and other knowledge actually stem from there. So I would say that the perception right now, technology has been coming from the West, especially the last 200 years, and it's shifting very quickly. And right now, the Eastern countries, particularly the China, and also to some extent the India and some of our countries are also contributing towards the new phase of the technology development. So therefore, it is not a monopoly by any party. We could actually also be a contributor beside being a user. Now, along with that, technology is neutral. I do sense there are some resentment among some of the community leaders thinking that technology will actually ruin our culture. In fact, may have an adverse effect towards our civilization. So there are some doomsayers as well. I think we need to kind of put on record that technology, digital technology is neutral, just like like steam engine. You can use that to power ships that facilitate trades, or you can use it to power warships that destroy countries. So I think we have to use that steam engine, in this case, the digital technology, in a productive manner that really can bring true benefits to all of us. Now, having said this, in fact, we are having meeting online, so it's actually the digital application. And in fact, digital is everywhere. Only thing is uneven. Many of us use digital apps to do payment. We get a lot of services. And in fact, it's very pervasive, but there are very uneven so-called adoption and uneven provisioning of those services and infrastructure. So hence, I think the leaders here will need to think that digital is no longer nice to have. It's a necessity that is similar to water, electricity, even similar to our food. Because in fact, we may not be able to live a day productively or even happily without our digital tools or digital environment. So therefore, it is to have leaders here to recognize that it is a necessity. What can we do about this? Digital technology is a necessity. So the next point to share is about digital competencies. So are we able to be the effective users before becoming effective innovators? So we could actually, at two levels, first of all, heighten the ability to use it, maximize the usage, and there are a lot of innovation in the usage alone, like how we conduct our meeting today and how we further enhance that with interactivity and so forth. So in order to have the competencies, that's where we need to recognize that digital competencies is very much like other skills, like language skills, like mathematics, knowledge that we need to know. It's like driving. Many of us, we drive, right? We thought that, okay, driving is a must. When you are 16 years old, 18 years old, you go and get your driving license. I think no one says that when you are at certain age or you are going to school or when you are born, you must already pick up the digital competencies. I think we need to recognize and put this in a center stage, that it is going to be a very core competencies alongside with language, mathematics, and others moving forward. And hence that we shall foresee the generation to come to become the digital generation with a lot of digital talents, while all of us who are not necessarily innovating in the creation of technology, but be a digital user, a proficient digital user. And the next part that I'd like to share is about digital leadership. I think there are a lot to say about this, but I just want to sum it in one sentence. The leaders have the responsibility to go big with digital. All of us need to seek in our own ways the new breakthrough. Big stand for the breakthrough. BIG. And I stands for the integrity. We heard from Mr. Shazali that the integrity, the trustworthiness sometimes may be broken. So digital technology, blockchain, and so forth would allow us to authenticate and trace that. And as such, it brings integrity back to the society. And G means it's good. It's a force of good. So we must recognize that, we embrace that as a force of good. All right. So leaders must have this mindset, go big with digital. And lastly, it is about digital infrastructure. It is an expensive affair, and the return may be long-term. So this is where there is the need to invest in future, not looking at just pure monetary return. And sometimes we need to pull together resources. And some countries, some organizations, let's say, Muslim countries, some are poor, some are rich. Likewise, non-Muslim countries as well. So that's where sometimes we need to be able to pull together investment resources and believe that it is actually for the people, because it is a universal necessity. And in fact, I would even call for the Zakat fund, for example, a lot of wakaf. That's where, you want to help the poor, you want to help all these deprived kind of population, use that to build that kind of infrastructure such that it bridge the divide and have the chance to live their life into a more what called modern and accessible life to the amenities around us. I think those are the few points that I wish to share. Back to you, Dr. Rita.
Thank you, Dr. Wei. I think you having the practical experience in dealing with digital economic aspects. You have mentioned about the development of digital tools, and then the competitiveness to enable to be absorbed into the digital economy. The digital economy does not differentiate between different religions, different ethnicity, different languages, although in some areas they have used other than the English, but predominantly that is now the basis on which computer language and digitalization works and so on. And interestingly, I think earlier we saw from West Java, they were producing imams or scholars with some English language ability. This is a very unique innovation. It's good so that they can understand. Yes, I think we agree that is part of the literacy process. Digitalization is a literacy process. Children pick up mother tongue, not learn in any way. Going to school or kindergarten or anything like that. They pick up the language from the mother or father. And similarly, I think this digital literacy comes as part of the early nurturing process. So they are able to deal with whether the gadgets and the technological link is available in the home and to what extent it is available in the Islamic countries. I think you have got this deficit, the digital divide, and you have to bridge the digital divide. I think many countries in their economic development program are worried about the poverty divide, and then they're also concerned about the digital divide. And both are important in order for you to progress forward. Thank you very much. I think we move on to our brother Jani Ibrahim from Industry of Mines and Agriculture from Nigeria. Probably is now 5 o'clock or so, or
yeah,
subuh time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, about time.
About the time to pray subuh.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. You're welcome, brother. Please.
All right. Thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope you are hearing me well.
Very well, very well.
Okay. Yeah, I want to start by commending the KSI Strategic Institute and Global One and all the partners, that are on this call, on this Global Muslim Business Forum. It's a commendable initiative which will go a long way in empowering the Muslim community all over the world. The only exception I have now is that Datuk Seri, I'm sorry that he didn't know my father, so I think you excuse me for that, because I think you have mentioned your relationship with the fathers of two of my previous speakers.
Hey, if I'm alive, I will tell your son or daughter that I know your father.
Inshallah. Well, I'm happy that we have been invited, to this forum, especially, coming out of Nigeria. And my own presentation will be slightly different from what my colleagues have said. I know that Rita, Batu, and Shazali, they have given quite a lot of technical aspects, of the global digital economy. And my brother Essa has spoken on the philosophical side. So I'll try to take away that and also try to refocus and tell us that there is somewhere called Africa, because I see that everybody is looking east, looking eastwards. Now, on behalf of Nasima is the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, which is the apex umbrella body, for all private sector organizations in Nigeria, and it is the voice, of business of Nigeria. And it's also an active player in the International Chamber of Commerce. As you may be aware, Nigeria has an estimated Muslim population of over 120 million, which makes us about the fifth largest Muslim country, in the world, and also a very, very strategic and strong member of the OIC. So therefore, I will try to focus on what we have been able to achieve in Nigeria with regards to the digital economy. For instance, if we now look at situate the continent of Africa, in Africa, the World Bank is presently running the Digital Economy Initiative for Africa, and which aims to ensure that every individual, business, and government in Africa, will be digitally enabled by 2030. And we must always remember that over 27%, of the Muslims in this world reside in Africa. And that means that it must be given the necessary attention and focus, as we discussed, Global Muslim Forum. Now, with the coming on board of the AFCFTA, the AFCFTA is the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. It is now operational. Africa's digital economy is projected to boom exponentially. For instance, revenue from e-commerce is expected to grow from just $7.7 billion in 2017 to over $33 billion in 2022, which is a major leap. And that means that focus, should be brought, to Africa. So the AFCFTA, which is currently going on, seeks to connect businesses in the African continent with a combined GDP of over $3 trillion. And we have a population of 1.2 billion, in Africa, which after China and India, that is the next port of call. In the case of Nigeria, Nigeria is not only the most populous country in Africa, it also has the largest economy with a GDP of almost 20%, of the entire African continent. The digital economy is a key priority for us in Nigeria. There is a vibrant ecosystem of digital entrepreneurship in the capital, Abuja, and also in the commercial hub, Lagos. And where we have a lot of digital startups and also the diaspora. Now, the government has been making a very, very powerful and a purposeful lead, in trying to get Nigeria to embrace digital economy. And what has the government done? And these are just a few of some of the things that the government has done in order to promote it. The government designated a Federal Ministry of Communications to now Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy in 2019, and appointed, a Sheikh Issa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, as a minister who is a professor, and a renowned ICT expert. We have also launched the Nigeria Digital Economy Policy and Strategy, which is a strategy for 2020 to 2030. And the gains from this are beginning to show positively in the Nigerian economy. Now, the digital strategy, is being driven by three major government parastatals in Nigeria: the National Communications Commission, the Nigerian National Information Technology Development Agency, and also our Galaxy backbone. Now, it is also important to note that the Central Bank of Nigeria became the first in Africa, to come up with a digital currency known as the e-Naira. Now, the actions that government has taken and also the private sector has yielded phenomenal results, including a surge in fintech. It is interesting to note that there are currently 6 fintechs coming out of Nigeria that are unicorns. Unicorns in the sense that their market capitalization is over $1 billion. And we have hundreds of fintech startups in Nigeria. The emergence of thousands of technology-enabled startups are also in Nigeria. Coherent foundation policies are also there for digital economy. Now, the ICT sector in Nigeria has contributed almost 18.5%, more than double, in Q2 2022, more than double what it was in Q2 2019, which was just merely under 9%. So this growing, which is also improving and diversifying the economy in Nigeria. In order not to take too much time, and in conclusion, therefore, I want to also mention, the collaboration that my brother Essa has talked about. It is very, very important that as we are looking amongst, the Muslim countries, there's also importance that there should be some focus, on Africa, because we need a lot of attention and collaboration, amongst the Muslim countries, in the East. So this shows that the Muslim community is already playing a good role in the global digital economy, but the opportunity for growth is immense. For instance, we also have the D8 organization, of which Nigeria is a very strong member, so that we can share, competencies, share ideas, and also share opportunities, for collaboration. But I'll just talk about one or two challenges that we have. Part of the challenge we seek to overcome is the misrepresentation of local cultural practices as Islamic practices, which are used to hold back a large part of our own population, especially women. In this regard, I'm really very, very excited that Global One, which is a UK-based Muslim-led international development NGO, is one of the partners of this program. Moving forward also, I also urge this forum to explore a collaboration between Sarawak and a subnational government in Nigeria as a way of deepening Muslim participation in the global digital economy. Finally, access to internet is a very, very important prerequisite, for participation in the digital economy. I therefore urge this forum to explore ways of improving access to the internet in all Muslim communities, particularly the vulnerable ones in Africa. I don't want to dwell on the electricity because I've been praying that before my time, comes up, that we don't lose electricity supply. So these are some of the challenges that we have, and we hope that if we also have the opportunity of looking at Africa, there are a lot of opportunities for collaboration and deepening, relationship with the African countries, knowing that we have 54 African countries that are participating in the AFCFTA, which is a free trade area agreement. So on this note, since we are running short of time, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to make this short presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Brother Johnny Ibrahim. I think your voice from Africa is very loud and clear. I think we bear in mind that we will be, you produce the examples of how e-commerce has progressed very much, and also the digital economy initiatives from the World Bank and for Africa. And of course, the Muslim side of the story is that you would be able to make the linkages if we are able to explore what opportunities are available in the digital economy initiatives that have been drawn up by the World Bank for Africa. And thank you very much also for saying that the largest Muslim population is also in Africa. And we also know that the Muslim countries or the Muslim Ummah there are also into some vulnerable, both on the religious front as well as on the economic front. And there is a duty on the rest of the world and the rest of the Muslim world to provide substantial support for your initiatives. Thank you very much. Now we are almost there at 12:30, and I don't think so we will not, if we don't give an opportunity for Amir Zakwan Anwar, I will have my head chopped off. So Amir has got a good background from Gazana, the investment aspects of Gazana, which is our sovereign fund. And then he has moved on from there to other aspects. And now he's with Aerodyne Group, and probably is also very much involved in the digital side. So I will not cut short your time. You can still take about 5 to 7 minutes. And if the organizers have something to take up with me, I will take my sword and fight with them for you. So over to you, Amir.
Thank you, Dr. Sri. That's very honorable of you. So I think now we're running in stoppage time. So I'll try to keep my thought process brief. So for those of you who don't know Aerodyne Group, we're the #1 ranked drone service provider in the world. Born and bred in Malaysia. We operate out of 11 offices around the world, covering 35 countries, and paving the way for drone applications, leading the way for drone applications around the world. So I think a lot has been said, and I agree with most of the points that were mentioned. Well, all of the points that were mentioned earlier on today during this panel. But let me just try to structure my thoughts around this battle cry for the Muslim world to start creating technology. Right now, we've heard the data points that there's this imbalance of trade between the Muslim world and the rest of the world with regards to science, innovation, technology, AI, digital transformation, so on and so forth. We see the likes of the superpowers on the West with this US and Europe, and then you have the powers of the East, which is China, and then we're right smack in the middle, from Asia all the way to the coast of Africa. And so yes, Africa is represented in my arguments here. So, but then again, we started off with the frontiers that were mentioned earlier on, Al-Jabbar, Al-Khawarizmi, and so on and so forth. And one thing that we haven't talked about specifically with regards to the building of artificial intelligence is with regards to ethics. Right, so we are so dependent on the usage of artificial intelligence from the West and also the East, well, far East of Asia, which is China. But sometimes we forget that the Muslim world has gone through many iterations of many studies with regards to center around ethics with the works of Al-Farabi and others. And this is like 1400 years ago. And when you talk about artificial intelligence, specifically artificial general intelligence, and these are sentient beings which are going to be mainstream in the next 5-10 years and so on and so forth. The systems that have been built are based primarily on secular belief systems. What is right or wrong is basically premised on secular belief systems. And over 2 billion of the world's population, which is basically the representation of the Muslim world, which is about 30% of global population, is severely underrepresented. So how can we be, how can we, allow or even think of, integrating our lives with artificial general intelligence when the whole premise of ethics is based on something that is not from our lens? And there's a big question over there. And when we talk about, the what is right or wrong in the realm of ethics, what has been in the mainstream, again, this is just an observation from my point, is the worldview of what is right or wrong has been imposed on us as opposed to being co-created by us, if you get what I mean, right? If let's say, and again, this is an adage that all of us have been brought up with, in amalu biniyat, which is, action based on niyat, which is objectives. Whose objectives? right? What principles what would ground these objectives? So again, this is again for me, as a battle cry here. We as the Muslim world, Aerodyne, we are creating our own tech, we are building our own artificial intelligence systems and so on and so forth. But we are putting in our own lens, to figure out what is the best way of doing things. But at the same time, we are a small part of a bigger puzzle here. We're one piece of the jigsaw. And this is where my call to arms for the Muslim world is to start thinking of actually, not just thinking, but start building your own technology, so that eventually we don't have to rely so much on the superpowers of the West and the East, that we can build and rely on our own systems. If, let's say, the adage of Ina Amalu Niat, it's action based on objectives. The other adage of Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar, which is really doing good and do no harm. All these principles should be bottled down and distilled into whatever algorithms that power AI systems that we build. I see a parallel here. I think I'm going to end my arguments here by saying that I see a parallel between what is happening now and what has happened a few hundred years ago. The Silk Road and the Muslim world being right smack in the middle is connected between China and Europe. And the prime beneficiary of that trade route in terms of transfer of knowledge, technology, economic prosperity was the Muslim world, and being right smack in that middle. And right now, the war of tech, or the race for tech, it's a common theme. You have the East, which is China, and you have the West, which is Europe and the United States. Again, the Muslim world being right smack in between. But yet, are we even, are we putting our best foot forward to really harness this benefit of being in the middle of this tech race between East and the West? So I think my last comment here is, again, going back to my call to arms here. We're building technology from Malaysia. My battle cry to all my brothers and sisters in the Muslim world is that start building technology. Stop relying on Western, Eastern technology. Start building your own so that you can shape it with your own worldview, and be less reliant on secular based systems. Thank you very much.
Okay, Amir, first of all, let me thank you for being within the time limit. Yours is an exciting topic. The drone technology is all pervasive to view and apply to all aspects of the planet. I won't ask you whether your technology was used in the bombing of Ukraine by Russia. No, I'm just saying that out of a joke. Yes, I think we have to imbue the young into this and then innovate. And I think this is the theme that is continuing right throughout this panel session. But there is an element of collaboration always. We learn and then we transfer and then continue, because in terms of making available whatever the research that has come for peer review and further elaboration is an important element in this new world. I think medical science has progressed. I think we knew from the COVID, and then even in the technological side also we have that. But the essence of your point is that don't worry about the high-fluted technological process. There are technological process and innovation that are within your bounds that you can put it no matter where you are. And then you have taken the Malaysian example through Aerodyne to many countries. So I would like to say congratulations. I'm afraid that we will not have the closing remarks by all the speakers, because the organizers have got certain schedule before they start the parallel sessions by 1:30. So once again, let me say how much on behalf of KSI, as well as Global One and the Economic Club of Kuala Lumpur, we are very grateful for your participation. Brother Essa, Sister Rita, Brother Shazali, Brother Johnny Ibrahim, and Amir for your things. So over to you, Zaim, if you're still on the loop.
I am. Thank you, Dr. Sri.